Part 146. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 1451. Chapter 1451, 14 years, she never gave up looking for you. In the end, the considerate Yeshiruo volunteered, "Mommy, let me talk to her." Yewaiwei bit her lip and nodded. She was so looking forward to it when she came to look for Li Painter, but when she saw her, she realized how nervous she was. There are so many things I want to tell my children, but at the critical moment I can't say a word. Because I cherish it so much, I am even afraid that if I say something wrong, it will scare the children. Yewaiwei also realized that her encounter with Mo Xiongnuan would be different from the norm, so she tried her best to control and restrain her behavior. Li Panner has always been on good terms with Yeji, perhaps the children were able to communicate more happily before. Yeshiruo comforted Li Panner not to be nervous. But in fact, Li Panner's hands are trembling now. She had more or less listened to the conversation Yewaiwei had with Mother Li just now, but she didn't understand. She was obviously Li Panner, so why did Aunt Ye say she was Mo Xiongnuan? Yeshiruo sorted out her thoughts for a while, organized the words in her mind, called out Li Panner's current name, and said in a soft tone, "Panner, sister, let me tell you a story. 14 years ago." She recounted the accident that happened 14 years ago word for word. Li Panner listened carefully. At the end, she suddenly felt cold on her cheeks, and it turned out that tears had already fallen from her eyes. She was silent, not saying a word, but she couldn't stop the tears in her eyes. I kept wanting to wipe it away, but the tears kept flowing. Yeshiruo couldn't help himself when he saw her silent crying, and his eyes turned red. It has been 14 years since we were born. During these 14 years, even if everyone said that Mo Xiongnuan was dead, in Mommy's heart, Mo Xiongnuan has never left. Didn't you ask me before what was in the door with Mo Xiongnuan's sign on it? That was the room Mommy left for you. Whatever Ye Qingfeng and Yeshiruo got, they would never lack Mo Xiongnuan. A warm portion. Nuan, Mommy really misses you. Hearing what Yeshiruo said, Li Panner was really confused. She couldn't believe it. How could it be me? Yeshiruo told her the truth. Actually, we haven't gotten the exact result yet, but Mommy has determined that it was you. No matter how outrageous the truth of that incident was, we are willing to believe that you are what we are looking for. People. What if I'm not? What if it turns out I'm not? Li Panner's questioning was still difficult for Yeshiruo. The results of the paternity test haven't come out yet. She was probably infected by Yewaiwei's behavior and decided that Li Panner was Mo Xiongnuan. Yewaiwei broke in and answered straightforwardly, "There is no if, you must be. And yet. Nuan, I'm sorry, maybe Mommy can't communicate with you rationally now, but please believe that Mommy will never let you leave again." Without any evidence, Li Panner still couldn't believe it. It's not that she doesn't want to, but because she is afraid. She longed for family affection in the Ye family. Once her expectations arose in her heart, but the end result was counterproductive, she was afraid that she would collapse. The feeling of standing on the cloud and then falling down is 100 times more painful than living in the abyss. Ye Qingfeng knocked on the door and came in. He glanced at everyone and said with a calm face, "The results from the hospital are out." End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Luke Hixie. Chapter 1452. Chapter 1452. The probability of father-daughter relationship is 99%. Turnout. Everyone stared at Ye Qingfeng, waiting for the results. He said. The results of the paternity test are very important to them. Li Panner is the most nervous one. The result is first. Brother, please stop nagging and tell me quickly, what is the result? They all wanted to know the answer, but the most critical moment was when Yahweh interrupted, "Okay, I don't need to hear the result. Anyway, Panner is Nuan Nuan, and I have decided on this daughter. No matter how great the good outcome is for Galen, Yahweh doesn't want to hear strange words, so why not just accept it as such?" She really didn't want to experience that kind of expectation and despair again. It was too painful. Anyway, we all like Panner, don't we? Ruruo even told me to let Panner stay in our house. Now, if you don't like us calling you Nuan Nuan, you can always call you Panner. Panner, you believe mommy will really be very good to you, please go home with mommy, okay? Facing a child, she lowered her attitude and begged for mercy. Li Painter was really flattered. There were still tears in the corners of her eyes, but she didn't know how to answer Yehweh's words. No one had ever spoken to her in such a tone, asking a child for his opinion so sincerely. She could even hear the pleading in the tone. You don't need to be so nervous. The paternity test results of Panner and Daddy show that their paternity relationship is 99%, so, the parent relationship is established. Very good. Yehweh cried for joy. Did you hear that? You are my daughter, my daughter. I finally found you. Yehweh hugged Li Panner tightly, and the excitement in her heart could not be expressed in words. Li Panner's hands were trembling as she slowly hugged Yehweh back. When she learned that she was actually the person who had not been forgotten for 14 years, she was confused, shocked, and more moved. So it turns out that the real her has always been truly missed by others. The experience at this moment was like a dream to her. Fragile sweet dreams, she was afraid that she would wake up inadvertently. Am I really Mo Xiang Nguyen? Absolutely true. Yes, only words made everything settle. When Yezikin came to find them, he came with several people. 2 drivers and bodyguards who came by car were responsible for guarding the Li family and his wife. These 2 people were so ruthless in putting pressure on a child. This violated their previous agreement, not to mention that Li Panner now had another layer of identity. Yezhiruo, who originally wanted to educate the Li family but failed to learn from the unknown, was already feeling angry. Now he knew that Li Panner was his biological sister. Thinking of the suffering she suffered in the Li family, no one in the Ye family could put it aside. Let this matter go. The Li couple didn't suffer much at first, but they still had a hard temper. What's the matter with you? Even if you have money, you can't do whatever you want, right? Hey, I didn't expect that you guys who only know how to curse people would still use idioms, but I'm sorry to tell you that if you have money, you can do whatever you want. You robbed my daughter, what else do you want? Believe it or not, I will call the police and let the police arrest you. Hey, who do you think the police will believe, the cruel couple who are known to bully their daughter for a long time, or us who kindly save people without expecting anything in return? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixie. Chapter 1453. Chapter 1453. The Li family sells their daughter. Hey, who do you think the police will believe, the cruel couple who are known to bully their daughter for a long time, or us who kindly save people without expecting anything in return? At this time, even if the Ye family is acting rogue, the Li family and his wife can't do anything to them. The biggest one here is the village chief, but anyone in the village knows that few people in the village like them, and who is willing to offend these wealthy families for them. Yezikin gave a serious order, go get your household registration book and prepare to go down the mountain with us to do something. These words may sound a bit arrogant, but even if they have capital, the Li family and his wife cannot even resist. Even if he said something wrong or did something wrong, the 2 big men around him could scare them away by raising their hands. You guys, Just wait. The Lee couple trembled and went back to the room to get their things. Taking advantage of this moment of alone time, the two began to whisper. Honey, what did they mean by what they just said? I heard that woman say that Panner was their daughter and she wanted to take Panner away, but I didn't know. They vaguely heard those strange words outside just now, saying that Lee Panner was the daughter of the Ye family. But in the hearts of the Lee family couple, they unanimously believed that Lee Panner was the child that came out of their wombs, and they had never doubted that Lee Panner was not their biological daughter. So at this time, all Lee's father could think of was, then could it be that they want to adopt Panner because Panner has caught their fancy? It's not impossible. Those people have plenty of money and are not afraid of raising one more child. Mother Lee thought for a while and agreed with his idea. Father Lee nodded, yes, if you ask us for the household registration book now, it must be about Panner. Lee's mother asked, then what should we do now? Father Lee's eyes were spinning, and he was thinking of some evil idea. He was certain of one thing, Panner is our daughter. This is a blood relationship that no one can change. They can't rob her. You're right, they promised to give us 1,000 yuan a month when Panner was here. If I leave, wouldn't we have no money? But if we fight with them now, they won't give us money even if they are unhappy, right? What should I do? I can't give my daughter away for nothing, right? Hey, I have an idea. The girl can't do anything with us anyway, so why don't we take the opportunity to make a fortune? Father Lee hooked up with Mother Li. Mother Lee stretched out her head, and Father Lee whispered a few words in her ear. Mother Lee frowned after hearing this, a little doubtful. Is this feasible? Look at the way those people just wanted to rob. Father Lee couldn't stand the woman's indecisive look. He clapped his hands impatiently. I told you that Panner is our biological child. No matter how rich they are, they can't change this fact. If he dares to rob someone, we will sue him. He reckons they don't dare to fight with the police even if they have money. The couple who are obsessed with money only have money in their hearts. Someone knocked on the door and asked, have you got the stuff? Mother Lee quickly responded, we're looking for it, right away, right away. The couple took out the household registration book from the cabinet and finally stuffed it into Lee's father's trouser bag. Mother Lee reminded, it has been installed and cannot be handed over to them easily. It will be given after an agreement has been reached. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixie. Chapter 1454. Chapter 1454. I has a strong desire for revenge. Then what price shall we offer? Lee's mother's heart skipped a beat and she stretched out 5 fingers. 50,000. No, 150,000. Impossible, 150,000 yuan is enough for us to live for a lifetime. Even if they like Panner, they wouldn't be willing to spend so much money all at once, right? How will you know if you don't try it? If it doesn't work, just lower the price. Look at the people in the Ye family, big and small, all dressed up. Maybe they are willing to spend money. By the way, what the Lee family and his wife discussed just now was to sell their daughter to someone from the Ye family. They were convinced that Lee Panner was related to them by blood, so they wanted to take this opportunity to make a fortune and ask the family to pay for Lee Panner back, so that they would not have to worry about money in the future. The two of them were nervous and excited at the same time. After they went out, they stood there awkwardly, because when they faced Yezikin, they always felt an unintentional pressure that made them want to escape, even when they spoke. Dare to look into his eyes. Have you got your things? They got the things, but they were unwilling to hand them over. Father Lee and Mother Lee looked at each other, and finally Father Lee stepped forward to talk to Yezikin. Mr. Ye, are you going to take Panner away? Yes. Panner can be taken away by you, but we have a condition. This sentence is interesting. At least Yezikin was willing to raise his eyes and take a serious look at them. Tisk, make a condition with me. Mother Li gritted her teeth and asked, "Tell me first whether you agree or not. Tell me the story." "We, the couple, have thought about what you just said. Don't you just want to take Panur back to be your daughter? It's very simple. Just give it to me and we can give Panur to your family. Deliver." After confirming this word, Yezikin raised a sarcastic smile at the corner of his mouth. This sentence happened to be heard clearly by Li Panur, who was standing at the door. "She is really, really disappointed in this family. I knew that I had never been seen, and I was scolded for a long time. She really wanted to ask that couple, even if they didn't like her as a girl, did they really have no compassion after living together for so many years? If it wasn't the Ye family who wanted her, but other people with evil intentions, would they also sell themselves for money? It's really terrible. Now, she doesn't even have the courage to take a step forward." Ye Weiwei held her hand tightly and deliberately squatted down to talk to Li Panur because of the height difference. "Panur, don't let your mood be affected by those who don't care about you. You have to remember that from now on you already have with a strong backer, we are your relatives. Mommy will never let you be bullied in the slightest. Those who dare to bully you will be repaid double or tenfold." Unconsciously increasing the strength in the hands, Li Panur felt pain. She refrained from saying anything, but she saw the anger in Ye Weiwei's eyes. In fact, there is ruthlessness hidden in anger. Approximately few people know that Ye Weiwei, who can usually treat others gently, has a strong heart. She is not a good Samaritan, and she has a strong desire for revenge. Li Panur was a little scared after seeing it. She had never seen Ye Weiwei with such a look. In her impression, the only image of Ye has always been gentle and kind. Li Panur subconsciously said, "Don't." End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1455. Chapter 1455. My name is Mo Xiang Nguyen. Ye Weiwei frowned. She tried to persuade Li Panur to learn to protect herself. "Panur, those people are not worth your heartache at all." Li Panur couldn't fully accept everything that happened suddenly. Even if she was heartbroken by what the Li couple did, she couldn't support others in attacking two relatives who had lived with her for more than 10 years. "I'm sorry, I know you all do it for my own good, but I can't do it. I'm sorry, I can't do it, I'm sorry." She kept apologizing, feeling that she was really useless and had been letting down the Ye family's kindness towards her. "Help." Ye Weiwei looked very remorseful and seemed to take all the blame on herself, which suddenly made Ye Weiwei feel even more sorry for her. Okay, Panur, don't get excited. It's not your fault. You are not wrong. Mommy will listen to you, okay? Things that are lost and found are not necessarily second-hand goods. For some people, the people or things that are lost and found are priceless treasures in their hearts. The only thing Ye wanted to do was to hold her lost daughter in her heart. No matter what her daughter said now, she would not be willing to refute it. Ye Weiwei calmed down a little and then sent Li Panur to Ye Qingfeng and Yezhiruo, and told them to take good care of Li Panur. "Feng Ruruo, take your sister to have a rest and wait for mommy. I'll see you again after I've taken care of things." Ye Qingfeng and Yezhiruo nodded and assured, "Don't worry, mommy, we will take good care of our sister." Yezhiruo originally liked Li Panur very much, but now that she knows that she is her biological sister, her affection for her will definitely increase. Ye Qingfeng's sister control attribute has been established since he was a child. When he met Li Panur before, he could be a little more leisurely and arrogant. Now facing his own sister Mo Xiang Nguyen, his sister control attribute cannot be concealed. "Sister, are you hungry? Brother, do you want some chocolate here? Sister, do you want some water? Sister, you." The breeze in the night was wandering around Li Panur, asking here and there, for fear that the service would not be thorough. Yezhiruo was having a good chat with Li Panur, but was always interrupted by Ye Feng. She couldn't bear it, so she put her hand in front of Ye Feng and said, "Stop, stop, stop. Brother, can you relax a little? I'm very relaxed. I mean, don't act so deliberately. Panner is not used to it yet. You will embarrass her." Really, Ye Feng stared at Li Panner and saw her purse her lips subconsciously. Ye Feng scratched his head and said, "Okay then, just tell me what you need. Don't worry, we won't be polite." Yezhiruo and Li Panner looked at each other and both laughed. Li Panner realized that the aloof young master turned out to be like this. "Panner, actually I want to tell you something." "What?" "I know you can't fully accept this yet, but I want to ask, can you change your name back to Mo Xiongnuan? We are triplets. Do you know the origin of our names? Smile warmly and be at ease, if you when it blooms, the breeze comes. The name Xiangnuan contains everyone's good expectations and longing for you. In the years since we lost you, the only thing we can remember is this name, so can you call me Nuan Nuan? My name is." She moved the corner of her mouth and read out the name carefully, Mo Xiongnuan. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1456. Chapter 1456. Let's call her Aunt Yet. Very good. Nuan Nuan, welcome home. Hearing her answer, Yezhiruo smiled sincerely. It turns out that miracles will really happen in this world. As long as you pursue it firmly, maybe what you once lost will come back to you again. Mo Xiongnuan didn't know how Ye Wei and the others solved this matter. When she went out, she only saw the Li family and his wife standing there in a dignified manner, not even daring to express their anger. In Mo Xiongnuan's memory, the Li family couple had always been rude and arrogant in front of her. She had never seen the Li family couple look like this. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Now that she knew that the Li family couple were not her parents, she really couldn't call her parents. I have suspected that I am not my biological child many times, but I never expected that such a bizarre thing would really happen. Judging from the attitude of the Li family towards her, I'm afraid no one would call her ungrateful even if she turned around and left. Her life was like a nightmare. The only kindness the Li family and his wife had to her was probably the food they gave her over the past 10 years. Ye Wei walked up to her and held her hand affectionately. "Panner, can mommy take you home now?" Yezhiruo interjected and made a statement. "Mommy, Nuan Nuan promised to use her original real name. You must remember to change your name." Really, Ye Wei was ecstatic and hugged Mo Xiongnuan into Hui Hui's arms. "Nuan Nuan, that's great." At the same time, the Li family couple who were present also heard what Yezhiruo said, and they all looked at Li Panner with surprise. However, due to the threats from the people around them, they did not dare to talk to Mo Xiongnuan at will, but they had different expressions. Ye Wei held Mo Xiongnuan's hand with joy and wanted to take her out of the house. Just when he was about to step out of the threshold, Mo Xiongnuan suddenly stopped. She finally turned around and her eyes fell on the Li family. The Li couple were full of hope, hoping that she could say something nice. Unexpectedly, Mo Xiongnuan turned his head back again. Her finger hooked go yes only palm. Just when she was about to talk about the Li family, Mother Li couldn't help calling her name. "Li Panner, you really plan to do this? Let's go. You are too heartless, we are the ones who have raised you for more than 10 years. Mother Li's scolding was harsh to the ears. She swallowed the words she was about to blurt out. "Yeah, and yeah, I want to get my things." After learning the truth, Mo Xiongnuan has always ignored Ye Wei's address, and now he still addresses her as aunt. Yeah, I can't help but feel a little disappointed when he hears it. However, she quickly adjusted her mood and put herself in the best possible condition in front of Mo Xiongnuan. Okay, I'll go with you. Mo Xiongnuan returned to his original small room to pack his things. This was the first time Yezi stepped into Mo Xiongnuan's room. This narrow room is no more than 3 meters long and 2 meters wide. There is nothing extra except a bed and a table. I saw that the top and bottom of the table were facing each other, and the clothes were all rolled up in bags. There was no extra space for storage. It's hard to imagine that Mo Xiongnuan has lived in such an environment for more than 10 years. Seeing the environment here, Ye Wei was angry and distressed at the same time. This is too much, how could they do this to you? Ye Wei clenched his fists in anger, and maybe he could not help but rush out to find someone to settle the score in the next second. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixie. Chapter 1457. Chapter 1457, What I owe her will take my whole life to pay back. This is too much, how could they do this to you? Ye Wei clenched his fists in anger, and maybe he could not help but rush out to find someone to settle the score in the next second. Mo Xiongnuan shook his head calmly, it's okay. Having lived in this place for 10 years, I am used to everything. As for bringing something, she really didn't have anything to bring. The only thing she treasured was a few pieces of clothing. Mo Xiongnuan packed up the clothes that Yezhiruo had given her last time, and found 2 sets of dresses from the bottom. They were children's dresses and items given to her by well-wishers many years ago. What is that? Ye Wei looked at the style of the dress and suddenly felt that it looked familiar, but he couldn't remember it. Mo Xiongnuan took out another worn piece of letter paper and said, a well-intentioned person gave it to me when I was a child, but I have no memory of it at that time, only this letter. Mo Xiongnuan unfolded the letter. Ye Wei could clearly see the words and pictures on the letter, and his memory suddenly jumped to 10 years ago. It turns out, it's you. The family came here 10 years ago. It turned out that Yezhiruo had met Mo Xiongnuan at that time and was deeply impressed by her. Why didn't she stay a little longer at that time? Maybe that way she could see her daughter earlier. Tears rolled down instantly. Ye Wei covered her mouth with one hand and turned to leave the room. The sudden incident made Mo Xiongnuan confused. She immediately put down the clothes in her hands and chased out, only to see Ye Wei squatting behind the door with her head buried, and she could still hear the sound of crying. The only mood change in the night was sudden, and Mo Xiongnuan was at a loss. You, don't cry. You, what's wrong with you? And yeah, don't cry. The sound of crying made her feel so painful that she couldn't help but shed tears. She kept wiping her hands, but she couldn't wipe them clean. Don't cry. Mo Xiongnuan wanted to persuade her not to cry, but he was infected by the sadness and cried even more. Yezikin never expected that when he came to pick someone up, he would see mother and daughter crying at each other. He frowned and felt his head hurt. Are you two, mother and daughter, competing to see who cries harder? Just such a sentence was mixed in, and the anger that was filled with sadness just now was successfully disintegrated. The mother and daughter really stopped crying immediately and looked up at Yezikin at the same time. Such a reaction was exactly what Yezikin expected. Do not cry. Ye Wei stopped crying, but her eyes turned red. As if she was dissatisfied with being embarrassed by Yezikin, she washed her nose and retorted, Brother Chen, why are you like this? If you want Nuan to become a little crybaby like you, just continue. Yayoi held her daughter's hand, and when she looked back, she also stopped crying, and she felt relieved. I'm sorry, I didn't control my emotions well. Nuan, please go in and pack your things. Mommy will go in and help you carry them. Mo Xiongnuan returned to the small room as instructed. As soon as she left, Yezikin hugged the crying man next to him. Why are you crying again? I just learned something, back then. Ye Wei told Yezikin the truth he discovered. Yezikin listened quietly and patted his back to comfort him. Nuan won't blame you. Anyway, we found her, right? We have a lifetime to pay back what we owe her. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixie. Chapter 1458. Chapter 1458. Nuan's cherry blossom necklace was taken away. Mo Xiongnuan didn't have much to take away, but apart from the clothes, there was also a very precious treasure, which was the cherry blossom necklace Ye Wei gave her. The necklace was not on her, but was taken away by her good friend Zhou Yuking. When she first came back here a month ago, she came back with a necklace, but she didn't dare to wear it around her neck. And because her room was too small and she had a history of dealing with clothes, she was afraid that Mother Li would go back and look through her things, so she didn't dare hide it at home. The Li family's attitude toward her was acceptable in the first 2 days after she returned, but during those 2 days she still carried her things carefully and was taken to school when she went to school. She was accidentally discovered by Zhou Yuking when she was at school. Such an exquisite and beautiful thing naturally attracted Zhou Yuking's attention. Zhou Yuking then pestered her to ask about the origin of the cherry blossom necklace. She was questioned several times before she told Zhou Yuking the reason for the incident. Zhou Yuking expressed his envy of her, and finally Hao Ai offered to keep the necklace for her. She refused the first time. After a few days of guessing, the Li family's true colors were revealed and they began to ask her sideways if she had brought anything back from Ye's house. She was so frightened that she didn't even eat properly. She found an excuse to sneak out and handed the things to Zhou Yuking and asked her to take good care of them. She didn't care about thinking about anything else. She really didn't want the first gift she received in her life to be sold by the Li family for money. She originally thought that she would never be able to wear such a beautiful necklace for a long time, but she never expected that her identity would change drastically in just 1 month. But no matter what, she can safely get her necklace back and wear it openly. Mo Xiongnuan was going to get something. Yezhiruo originally said that he would accompany her, but seeing that Mo Xiongnuan didn't seem to have fully adapted to her enthusiasm, Yezhiruo finally went with her. Don't worry, Mommy, I will never leave Panur, and I will never let her leave my sight. Yezhiruo patted his chest and promised, but he was almost ready to issue a military order. But after the 2 daughters went out hand in hand, Ye Wei still felt uneasy. Ye Qingfeng took the initiative to ask Ying to follow him. I'm going to protect my 2 sisters. Mommy, just be at ease. Ye Qingfeng followed quietly. Ye Qingfeng and Yezhiruo are not ordinary rich second generations. They have learned all kinds of knowledge since they were young. In addition to literature, they also have a sense of protection. So Yezhiruo quickly revealed the existence of Ye Qingfeng. However, the brother and sister kept silent with a tacit understanding. Mo Xiongnuan brought Yezhiruo to Zhou Yuking's house. One characteristic of many households in rural areas is that their doors are usually open when someone is at home. The door of Zhou Yuking's house is half open, which means there is someone at home. Mo Xiongnuan stood outside and called people, "It's raining, it's raining." When looking for someone in rural areas, it is almost not a matter of knocking on the door. They usually shout at the top of their lungs, and the people inside will answer the call. As expected, someone from the Zhou family came out, but it was not Zhou Yuking, but Zhou Yuking's mother. Yuking is not at home. Zhou's mother was very familiar with Mo Xiongnuan, and she was very confused when she saw that there was a different person standing next to her. Panur, who is this next to you, isn't he a relative of yours? Even Zhou's mother herself didn't believe the second half of the question. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1459. Chapter 1459. The necklace is lost. Mo Xiongnuan was a little embarrassed for a moment. It was Yezhiruo who introduced herself generously. Hello, Aunt, my name is Yezhiruo, and I am her sister. Biological. After introducing his identity neatly, he still needs to add one sentence. These 3 words shocked Mother Joe to death. Sister, biological one. There are only a few people in the village, and every household in the village knows something about it. Who doesn't know that the Li family only has a daughter, Li Painter, and is extremely poor? At this moment, a beautiful and elegant young girl suddenly appeared and said that she was Li Painter's biological sister. Who would believe it? This can't be possible. Are you kidding me, Painter? How can you have such a sister? This week's mother's confusion at the beginning was understandable, but the second half of her sentence made Yezhiruo feel very uncomfortable. Yezhiruo put a hand affectionately on Mo Xiongnuan's shoulder and smiled at Joe's mother. Auntie, you don't need to look at me with such surprise. It's hard to explain this matter. You just need to know her. She is not a child of the Li family and is not called Li Painter, her name is Mo Xiongnuan. Oh, by the way, you should know about a family that funded your school a month ago, right? I know, Joe's mother didn't know Yezhiruo's intention of mentioning this matter, but when she mentioned it, almost everyone in the village knew that a month ago, a wealthy family named Ye funded this place in the name of the family's school. It's good to know. Yezhiruo nodded with satisfaction at her answer, pointed at Mo Xiongnuan with one finger and said, she, Mo Xiongnuan, is the daughter of that family named Ye, her biological daughter. With those arrogant words left behind, Yezhiruo pulled Mo Xiongnuan and left without looking back, no matter how shocked Joe's mother was standing there. Mo Xiongnuan reminded her after she had walked 10 meters away, Sister Ye, we don't know where Yuking is yet. Yezhiruo immediately put away his majestic and high-spirited posture and blinked at Mo Xiongnuan guiltily. She had just been busy standing up for Mo Xiongnuan. Ye Qingfeng patted Yezhiruo's shoulder, and suddenly came out from behind. Hey, can you two stop being so funny? Brother, can you stop being scary? Ye Qingfeng shrugged and stood between the two of them, placing his hands on their shoulders naturally. I have already asked for you. Zhou Yuking went to the house of a person named Zhao Fang. Thank you, brother. Yeah, brother. Yo, this brother's voice is really nice. Ye Qingfeng teased her, and Mo Xiongnuan blushed. The 3 of them went to Zhao Fang's house together, and sure enough they found Zhou Yuking at Zhao Fang's house. Now Mo Xiongnuan learned her lesson and asked Yezhiruo and the others to wait outside while she went to Zhou Yuking to get the necklace. But when Mo Xiongnuan asked her for it, Zhou Yuking said, Painter, aren't you afraid that your parents will take it back now? I can keep it for you. Mo Xiongnuan shook his head. Thank you, Yuking, but I can keep it by myself now. Can you please return the necklace to me? Zhou Yuking subconsciously gathered her clothes and said guiltily, yes, I'm sorry, the necklace is missing. What? I accidentally lost it before. How could it be? Where was it lost? I don't know either, I can't find it. Then why didn't you tell me? End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1460. Chapter 1460. It's really good to have a brother and sister. When he heard that the necklace was lost, Mo Xiongnuan became anxious. Zhou Yuking felt guilty. I didn't mean it. You know the necklace is so small and it disappeared accidentally. Think about it if it's missing there. We'll look for it again. Let's look for it now. Mo Xiongnuan tugged on Zhou Yuking's sleeves but couldn't pull her away. Zhao Fang, who was standing aside, heard some meaning from their conversation. What kind of necklace? Painter's necklace? No way. In their minds, Li Painter even wears old clothes. How could she have such a thing as a necklace? But Mo Xiang Nguyen obviously did not hear the truth of the words. She just hoped that Zhou Yuking could take her to look for it again. Ye Qingfeng and Yezhiruo were waiting outside Zhao Fang's house. One of them was holding a mobile phone in one hand, and the other had his arms folded. They stood casually there as if they had specially posed a pose, which was pleasing to the eye. "Brother, do you think it takes so long to get a necklace? It's been a few minutes since I got there." 7 minutes and 34 seconds. "You are really good at math. You can write this down, and how clear is it?" Yezhiruo was not an impatient person, but she had issued a military order before going out. Today, she must be by Mo Xiang Nguyen's side at all times. Thinking of his only guarantee to Yezhiruo couldn't stay any longer. "I'll go in and see why you haven't come out yet." Ye Qingfeng has no meaning. Although the door was open, it was not good to enter someone's house in a big way. She stood at the door and knocked. It's a pity that the people inside stayed in the room and didn't hear it. Ye Qingfeng also stepped forward and knocked. His noise was already loud compared to their usual knocking, but Zhao Fang and others still did not hear it. It really didn't work. Yezhiruo thought of what Mo Xiang Nguyen did when he was looking for someone. She pulled Ye Qingfeng and poked Ye Qingfeng's arm. "Brother, you can also learn to call people like Nuan." "Then why didn't you shout? You are a boy and I am a girl. Girls should be reserved and elegant." The education she received since she was a child was how to become a real socialite and a lady of the world. Now it was quite embarrassing for her to shout at people at the top of her lungs. Ye Qingfeng couldn't help but let out a chuckle, stretched out his hand to touch her head, with a natural doting look in his eyes. Without deliberately answering the call, Ye Qingfeng took a few steps back and tried to shout, "Nuan." It happened to be a coincidence that as soon as he shouted, he was heard by Zhao Fang, who was standing beside the bed. Zhao Fang took a curious look and saw someone standing outside, but she couldn't see their face clearly. "Who's coming again?" Zhao Fang murmured curiously, and Mo Xiang Nguyen naturally thought of his brother and sister waiting outside. She ran to the bed, took a look, and ran out impatiently. Yezhiruo was very happy to see her come out safely, and held her hand. "How is it? Did you get the necklace?" Mo Xiang Nguyen bit his lip and shook his head in frustration. Yezhiruo noticed that things were unusual and asked, "What's going on?" Yu Qing said that the necklace was accidentally lost. "Huh, lost it?" At first hearing the sentence, Yezhiruo was not surprised but found it funny. This sentence sounds fake no matter what, right? "Where is your friend named Zhou Yuking? Take me to meet her. I want to ask where she accidentally lost her necklace." She said she didn't know either. End of this chapter.